When Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent filled in at today's White House press briefing, he had one answer ready to go on the $1.8 billion, as it's now been described by the administration, anti-weaponization fund that is facing pushback even from some Republicans on Capitol Hill.
This is going to be the only question I'll take on this matter today. So there's ongoing litigation, so it'd be inappropriate for me to comment. President Trump is a great American who has endured more than 10 years of nonstop harassment and weaponization from the federal and state government actors. A bad actor at the IRS leaked more than 400,000 tax returns, including the Trump family, all the employees, and that's how we got here now. No American should be targeted for political reasons, and every citizen deserves fair treatment and full protection of the law.
Secretary Bessent, my second question, Secretary Bessent, just to follow up. My second question is on what you just commented on there, Mr. Secretary, about the $1.8 billion fund. Is it accurate that the General Counsel at the Treasury Department resigned over that?
I will not be taking any other questions, I will not be taking any other questions.
This fund, which, as you heard the Secretary reference there, was created as part of a settlement of the president's own $10 billion lawsuit against the IRS, is already being challenged by at least two separate lawsuits. Lawmakers in Washington, as you heard from Congressman Dan Goldman there, have been trying to figure out a way to stop it if they can. Joining me now is my next congressional source tonight, the Democratic Senator Chris Coons of Delaware. And thank you, sir, for being here. Secretary Bessent said, citing litigation, he was only going to answer that one question on this fund. Given Treasury does have a role in it, why do you think he didn't answer any of their questions about it?
Because he doesn't have a good answer. Kaitlan, he dodged your question just like the acting Attorney General, Todd Blanche, dodged my questions in a hearing last week. They don't have a good answer for how it is legal, how it is appropriate to take $1.8 billion of taxpayer money as a settlement of a lawsuit President Trump brought against his own government. This has never happened before, that a sitting president essentially sues himself and then settles his own lawsuit and then sets up a fund out of which folks who assaulted Capitol Police officers, folks who committed other crimes, members of his family, his donors, could all potentially be given millions of dollars. Think about it. Some of the thugs who assaulted Capitol Police on January 6th could walk away with multi-million-dollar settlements in addition to the pardon they got from Donald Trump. Talk about incentivizing violence. This is just an outrageous act of self-dealing and corruption, and the folks who owe us an answer are also my Republican colleagues. We were supposed to be up all night voting Thursday last week.
Yeah.
And I filed several amendments that would have blocked this fund. Republicans left town partly because they were fighting internally over this and partly because they didn't want to face having to vote on it.
Well, and obviously you'll all be back in Washington. What do you make? He called the idea stupid, I believe was the word he used, maybe dumb, about proposing a 100% state tax on anyone who gets payouts from the fund. What do you think of that idea?
I think that's a great way to deter people from seeking and getting these payouts. And, you know, look, if his own chief counsel of his department allegedly resigned in protest over this, he owes us some better answers than calling that dumb.
There's something else that's been making headlines today. As someone who is the campaign co-chair for President Biden's campaign, I'm sure you've heard this, but I want everyone to hear what the former First Lady Jill Biden said about what she felt when watching him on that debate, in that debate with CNN with President Trump.
Were you horrified as you saw it unfold?
I wasn't horrified, I was frightened, because I had never, ever seen Joe like that before or since. Never.
Or since?
Yes, or
You've
since.
never seen him like
Never.
that?
No.
What happened?
I don't know what happened. I mean, as I watched it, I thought, oh my God, he's having a stroke. And it scared me to death.
If that's how she felt in that moment, why do you think she praised his performance publicly the night of the debate?
Well, Kaitlan, let's focus on the point she just made. She's never seen Joe Biden have a moment like that where for a good 15, 20 seconds he couldn't collect his thoughts or communicate. She never saw that before, and she's never seen it since. I was with them both today at the funeral of a friend, the former mayor of Wilmington here in Delaware. And Joe Biden is fine. He had a difficult debate night where he really froze up. I don't have a clear explanation for why. And frankly, I think she complimented his debate performance, not because she thought those 30 seconds were great, but because she knew what he'd accomplished as president and knew that he would be a better president than Donald Trump. And frankly, Kaitlan, rather than focusing on what happened on a debate stage nearly 2 years ago now, we ought to be focused on what comes next for the American people, how we get their costs down, how we get out of this stupid war in Iran, and how we make sure that we are making life better for the American people when Donald Trump, in that debate and afterwards, ran on lowering your costs, making America healthy again, releasing the Epstein files, and not starting any stupid new wars overseas. He's falling down on all 4 of those counts.
Yeah, I mean, Democrats told CNN today in our reporting on this, they were frustrated that she's out and that she's speaking about it because it's bringing it back up, obviously, in this moment for Democrats. But let me ask you, Senator, because you're part of a bipartisan group of your colleagues that has introduced the Protect College Sports Act, which is another attempt that's underway on Capitol Hill when it comes to college athletics and what this looks like. And this legislation, as it's proposed now, would give college athletes a federal right to earn compensation for their name, image, likeness, NIL, which has become obviously a huge topic of discussion in college sports. When you look at this and you look at the Republicans and Democrats who are on it, do you think that this actually has a chance of getting passed?
I do. And Kaitlan, I'm honored to join Senators Cantwell and Cruz as an original co-sponsor of this bill after months of study and engagement and negotiation. They're the chair and the ranking member of the Commerce Committee, and they've achieved a tough but durable compromise. Everybody who's a college sports fan knows that it's in trouble, that between the transfer portal, the costs that are going up, the pay that's going out to both coaches and athletes and agents, there's an arms race going on, and it's putting at risk non-revenue sports, Olympic sports, women's sports, D2 and D3 sports, and college sports are a key part of the American culture, the American college experience, and for tens of millions of us who are fans, who are thrilled by watching college sports. So this balances giving college players, student athletes, the protections they deserve, to health care, to scholarships, to transparency about their agents, and to putting those NIL rights, as you mentioned, in statute. And it balances by limiting the transfer portal, by limiting coaches' ability to transfer mid-season, and by putting some clear guardrails around eligibility. I think it's a smart balance between a lot of different competing concerns, and I'm hopeful we'll take it up soon in the Senate.
We will see if you do. Senator Chris Coons, thank you for joining us tonight, as always.
Thank you, Kaitlan.